My story. Well, I'm going to quote the title of a book that some of you may have read. Born with a Bomb and Suddenly Blinded by LHON. I too was born with a bomb and suddenly blinded by LHON at the age of 67, 6 years ago. I think I just gave away my age, and I'm probably the only person in this room that is this old with LHON. But I'm going to backtrack a little bit. I wasn't actually going to bring it up, but in 2008, I was working, and I was feeling extremely tired, and I had a few dizzy spells, a few fainting spells. I went to my GP. She kept insisting I have vertigo. She never did take my pulse, though, just insisted, you've got vertigo. Okay. One Saturday, I was out with my daughter, house hunting, one of my favorite pastimes, but I was so tired, and I couldn't even manage to walk around to look at the house. My daughter said, there's something wrong. We ended up in emergency, where I was diagnosed with third-degree heart block and arrhythmia of bradycardia. I guess later, putting two and two together, this is probably one of the LHON plus side effects or a correlation. Anyway, I went back to work. At the age of 64, I decided, no, it's time to retire. I've spent 30-some years at the Ottawa Hospital, and I was looking forward to the golden years of retirement where I could look after, or at least help look after my then one-year-old grandson, and take in a lot of travel, which was on the bucket list, get to some of those things around the house that never seemed to get done. You know, that big box of photographs that I was finally going to get them into an album. Guess what? They're still in the box. I did have 2 years of great retirement, did some travel. My husband and I went to Egypt in September of 2011, right after the uprising. In November, I went for, again in 2011, I went for my annual eye exam with my optometrist. Everything was fine, no problem. In December, at the end of December, I thought, gee, I'm not seeing as well as I should be. Oh well, I am probably spending too much time on the computer looking up my next travel destination. Plus, it was Christmas, so time is hectic. However, in January, before investing in some new frames, I thought, I'm just going to get her to check my eyes again. Well, she covered my left eye. Oh, everything was fine. She covered my right eye. Oops, where was the big E? There is no E. In fact, where's the chart? I sensed a panic in the optometrist as she excused herself, ran next door to the pharmacy, came back with some eye drops, and made an appointment for the very next day at an eye clinic at the Riverside campus of the hospital. There I was seen for a few weeks by several different ophthalmologists. No one could really figure out what the problem was. Finally, I was referred to Dr. Patel, a neuro-ophthalmologist at the Eye Institute. Dr. Patel has since left and moved on to sunny California. Dr. Patel wasn't really sure either what it was. Was it the start of glaucoma? Perhaps it's optic neuritis. So off I go for the biopsy for optic neuritis. Of course, it was neither. But after all, I did have one eye still that was good, and many people function okay with one eye, and I could still drive. So spring turned into summer, and in July of 2012, I was at a dinner party, and when I went up to the buffet table, guess what? All the food on the table was a gray blur. I couldn't see the food. I felt panicky, excused myself, and somehow I managed to drive myself home. I called Dr. Patel's office, got an appointment the next day, which happened to be a Friday. They fit me in the afternoon. And when he saw me, he kept asking me over and over again, do you have any brothers that are blind? Do you have any brothers? Anyone in your family that's blind? Unfortunately, I could not provide him with this information. I am adopted. I have no biological family history, so that did not help. All I could tell him is, my mother is Jewish, my father is Danish, but that's not what he was looking for. I didn't realize any of this at the time. There's no correlation. So I was whisked down. He asked his staff, please stay on past 4 o'clock. His nurses escorted me down the hall for the usual IV steroid treatment. I was asked to come back again Saturday and Sunday for more IV steroids. And I'm not going to go into detail of all the usual tests that we've all experienced, whether it's, the scans, all the, well, I'm not even going to list them all, lumbar puncture, et cetera, et cetera. So the lumbar puncture, of course, we had to wait for that to come back. And that did not come back until September the 10th. I remember that day vividly. It was actually a day that broke my heart. It was a day I had to tell my family that, yes, there was indeed LHON. I know Dr. Patel had phoned his colleague, Dr. Sadoun, to see if it could possibly be LHON, because I did not fit the criteria of the usual person with LHON. I was female. I was 66, 67 at the time. He did not have any other patients like this. I think Dr. Sadoun thought, I have a feeling it is, but we will not know until the DNA test comes back. So on that day, on September the 10th, I was devastated when I was told yes. I was especially devastated because I had to tell my daughter, who had just given birth 10 days prior to her second son. So you can only imagine the grief and the guilt that I felt having to give them this information. But life goes on. Life, as we know, is filled with challenges. Losing sight and losing most of my independence was definitely not a challenge that I had ever imagined that I would be experiencing. How did I deal with that? Well, like any loss, I went in and out of the usual grieving process, and at times I still do. I was angry, I was depressed, I was in denial. Oh yes, and I bargained. If only I exercised a little more, ate more kale, surely my sight would come back. Of course it did not come back. And unlike the majority of people with LHON, mine never did stabilize, and I have no sight left. I can detect that bright light that's shining in my face. I can't see anything here. But like everything in life, we have to learn to adjust ourselves, and I had to learn to navigate this new world of mine. How did I do that? Well, first of all, with the support of my wonderful family and great friends, with the support from the CNIB, CCB, and of course, the LHON community. and all the great people that I met along the way, people I would never have met, people in the blind community, people I might never have met if this had not happened to me. They are here to support me or support us because they understand, they get it when we have those bad days. And of course, we all have bad days, just like sighted people. But I have to admit, the good days far outweigh the bad days now. And I guess, what does my revised retirement look like? The one that was supposed to be filled with all this travel, etc. I hope to someday still be traveling. But in the meantime, I have attended classes at Carleton, learning and retirement classes, pottery classes, yoga classes, a book club. I've tried my hand at blind curling. I'm trying to learn Braille. I am a CNIB ambassador, and I co-chair a peer support group called New Horizons, New Dreams at the CNIB. And I try to keep up on the latest assistive technology, all with the help of the queen of technology, Miss Kim Kilpatrick, who's sitting at the back. And I don't know what I would do without her help. She's such a wonderful teacher, and she holds our monthly GTT meetings here in Ottawa. And I always leave there having learned something new. In closing, I am going to quote Helen Keller. Alone we can do little, or we can do a little. Together we can do much. And my hope is that with all the research that we've heard about today, and all of us working together in the LHON community, we will definitely find a cure soon. Thank you.